Good evening, everyone. Today, people here in Minneapolis and around the country mourned and celebrated a life that we only came to know in death. George Floyd eulogized just 2 miles from where he met a violent death under the knee of a police officer. As his family publicly remembered him here, thousands once again marched in his name in cities far away, echoing the now familiar demands for police reforms. The service itself stirring as speakers decried social injustice in America. But its most powerful moment was silence, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. The amount of time Floyd was pinned to the ground. Here's Gabe Gutierrez.
Praise God.
10 days after his death, friends and family of George Floyd took a breath.
All these people came to see my brother, and that's amazing to me that he touched so many people's hearts.
He's touched the world, sparking a long-simmering reckoning, an explosion of fury and frustration over race and policing, but also in recent days a newfound unity and calls for action.
What happened to Floyd happens every day in this country, in education, in health services, and in every area of American life. It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks.
Reverend Al Sharpton delivering an impassioned eulogy, calling for accountability in the criminal justice system, and announcing a new march on Washington in August on the 57th anniversary of MLK's I Have a Dream speech. Floyd's family attorney, Ben Crump.
So when we fight for the George Floyds of the world, but more importantly, when we fight for the unknown George Floyds of the world, when we fight for the Trayvon Martins of the world, when we fight for the Terrence Crutches of the world, when we fight for the Michael Browns of the world, when we fight for the Alton Sterlings of the world, when we fight for the Philando Castillos of the world, when we fight for the Jamar Clarks of the world, when we fight for the Eric Gardners of the world, when we fight for the Sandra Blands of the world, when we fight for the Ahmaud Arbery's of the world, when we fight for the Breonna Taylors of the world, when we fight for the Natasha McKinney's of the world, when we fight for the Stephon Clarks of the world, when we fight for the least of these, what we are really doing is helping America live up to its creed.
The emotional service was the first of several planned over the next few days in North Carolina and Houston, while Minneapolis mourned. The 3 fired officers accused of aiding and abetting murder faced a judge for the first time. In charging documents, the state says ex-officer J. Alexander King held Floyd's back while former officer Thomas Lane held his legs, as seen here in this video. King's attorney said today his client had only 3 shifts under his belt as a full-fledged cop, and that he told the other officers, "You shouldn't do this." The attorney for Lane said he was also a rookie cop, who asked Derek Chauvin, "Shall we roll him over?"
You got to have criminal intent for second-degree murder, and frankly, this is bull.
According to the court documents, former officer Tu Tao blocked a bystander who tried to help Floyd. His attorney says he's cooperating. Chauvin, who has not commented and is now charged with second-degree murder, kept pinning Floyd, the state says, even after Floyd's condition continued to deteriorate, such that force was no longer necessary to control him. New autopsy results show Floyd had tested positive for the coronavirus, but that did not play a factor in his death. The new charges came 2 days after Minnesota's Attorney General took over the case. Today, Keith Ellison paid his respects at the site of Floyd's death.
This is about justice on behalf of the people of this state, this country.
Hurt. A lot of hurt.
Carlos Jackson grew up here in South Minneapolis. Today, he visited this makeshift memorial for the first time.
I grew up able to enjoy the Twin Cities, St. Paul and Minneapolis, and it's very hurtful to see my city boarded up like Detroit, Michigan, because the whole city is affected by this. The whole entire Twin Cities is affected by this.
Let us stand still.
A reckoning, now echoing far beyond the Twin Cities. To close the service, 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence. The agonizing length of time George Floyd was pinned under that knee.
Going home home, George. Get your rest, George. You changed the world, George. We gonna keep marching, George. We gonna keep fighting, George. We done turned the clock, George. We going forward, George. Time out. Time out.
That powerful service was played here over loudspeakers, and this place has become much more than just a site where George Floyd died. It's become what many hope will be a catalyst for change. Lester.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you. And before I made my way here to North Central University for today's service, I visited the place where George Floyd died to talk with people about the way forward, about trust, and what change looks like. Along the street where George Floyd was killed sits the intersection where pain and bewilderment meet wary optimism that things can change.
Do you have faith and trust that this is going to bring about change soon?
Yeah, I think so. We made a history. Minnesota did make a history.
But others aren't so sure.
Where were you when it happened?
I was home, actually.
Community resident and activist Candace Montgomery has heard promises before. Now she is among those here calling for a controversial move.
We need to move beyond police reform and completely transition away from our policing system right now, and that is actually what justice will look like.
When you say moving away, are you talking about abolishing police?
Yeah, I'm absolutely talking about abolishing police, transitioning away from the Minneapolis Police Department here locally, and investing in community-led safety solutions.
The shattered remnants of trust in promises of change now lay beneath bundles of flowers, posters, remembrances. A teachable moment many parents find they can't ignore.
You're 7? It's a hard conversation to have with a 7-year-old.
It is. He already knows a bit about general history of how a lot of unfair treatment of black people, the history of our country. And so I think this is a great, it's really sad that this is our jumping off point to look at some of these hard topics, but I think it's really important that if we ignore it, nothing will change. If we pretend it's not there and sweep it under the rug, he can't be part of that change. We can't be part of that change.
A unique community has come together on this street. People of many colors welcomed, fed, and comforted, united in the belief that change begins here.
How do you move forward? People have been marching in the streets around the country, demanding change. What does change look like, and how long do you have to wait?
I think as our governor spoke yesterday, I mean, the people's protests and the movements around the neighborhoods are what are going to make systematic change, political change. Our politicians can't ignore these voices if we continue to carry on this way.
And we want you to know we'll have much more from here in Minneapolis in an NBC News special tonight in prime time. Our look at America in crisis at 10 Eastern and Pacific. We hope you will join us then. Throughout the country, more protests today from New York to California. Tens of thousands remembering George Floyd and demanding change, but also more confrontations with the police. Here's Miguel Almaguer.
Say his name!
Streaming across the Brooklyn Bridge, thousands walk to honor George Floyd. Parents and their children following Floyd's brother, marking another peaceful protest as many demand change.
My brother's gone, but the Floyd name still lives on.
As rallies unfold across the nation again today, police are facing new scrutiny amid violent clashes with protesters. After unrest in Austin, officers are reviewing this chaotic scene where a demonstrator was hit with a beanbag. 20-year-old Justin Howell is now in critical condition after falling to the ground and hitting his head. The police chief nearly brought to tears.
What I say to you now is my heart is with you.
Not far from where demonstrators took over the streets of Chicago, police are now looking into the actions of these officers. A family pulled out of a car say they were roughed up by police because they may have been in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I want to be very clear. We will hold people accountable who cross the line.
But during overnight unrest in Brooklyn, it was police who were assaulted. One officer stabbed, 2 others shot in an attack that law enforcement sources say may have been terror-related.
The police are doing an impossible job. They're trying to stop looting, and they're trying to keep themselves safe because the police want to go home to their families.
Tonight, police and protesters calling for peace as a country divided tries to unite. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Today, a stunning announcement regarding the removal of a controversial monument that to many symbolized a history of racial injustice. The governor of Virginia announced the Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond will be removed. Lee was a Confederate general who fought to preserve slavery. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.